Hello, so now working on my health and I feel more confident about bringing my parents overseas. Next year they'll be 80 years old and I hope to bring them to another new place that we have not tried together before. I'm going to talk about top tips about traveling with elderly. The number one tips is I always look at the YouTube videos, even when they say like it's wheelchair friendly. What I look for in the video really is to look at the ground of the place, whether it's flat, as in whether it's easy to push, and also that the streets, are they narrow or are they wider so that there is place for wheelchair to maneuver easily. That's tip number one. And for tip number two, when looking for a hotel for them, I always look at photos of the lobby entrance as well as the toilets in the hotel room. I want to make sure that the entrance is not just next to a busier road. There is enough place for cars to stop and alight very carefully, and there is not much steps except for just one curb when they alight the car, so I can just push the wheelchair in very easily. As for the hotel, if I'm traveling alone, I would love to have a tub, but for them, unless it's a separate tub, I wouldn't choose the hotel. It should be just a walk-in shower area and comfortable, and less is more for furniture in the room. There's enough space for the wheelchair to move around in the room. So that's tip number two. For tip number three on traveling with elderly, I would like to make sure that my itinerary is not that full. It will be very relaxing. I usually choose a place for morning and then just one more place for either afternoon or early night, and that's it. Because with elderly, it's not like you can just go in, spend an hour and come out, especially when they have mobility challenges. So most of the time we go to the attraction, and sometimes I do have to push my mom, find a nice shady place for her to sit down, and then I will go back and pick up my dad and push him into the same place. So what happened is my dad is on a walking stick, but he can't walk too long, so most of the time he will be behind us and following us. But sometimes when I sense that he's a bit tired, then I will actually walk really fast to drop my mom first and then come back and then pick him up, and then they will rest there, get them a drink, and also give myself time to replenish my energy. So it's a very paced out itinerary, just enjoying this one place to its maximum, very, very slowly. No rush, no agenda of what you want to achieve. It's really just checking out the place, because you never know. Okay, when you reach there, you never know that one place that you want to check it out might just have that stairs that they can't go. So just take it easy. Okay, tip number four. Tip number four is quite important. We will always have breakfast as much as possible in the hotel room. If you ask me why, that's because when they only have that amount of energy, especially for walking, you want to save it to the first attraction. So you want to give that first burst of energy in the first attraction. So breakfast, I always either buy back coffee and breakfast, or I order takeaway room service into the room. So we always spend the morning in the hotel room before we head out to start our first good attraction. That's tip number four. For tip number five, always check their health condition. If they are really not taking overnight red-eye flight very well, then just take that extra day and fly in the daytime, and in such a way that when they reach the country, it's very near to dinner but still bright, and make their way to the hotel and then have the first dinner either in room service or nearby, so that they can have a good rest. Because I find that sometimes when you do a red-eye flight, when they reach the country, depending on how long as well, it's very tiring and they may need more than a day to recuperate. So when I fly in a day, although I wasted a day, in many people's terms, it's a holiday, let's make full use of it. But they are retirees, there's no days that you're wasting, it's all good. Yeah, just take that day traveling time and rest the whole night, and the next day they start really fresh. That's tip number 5. Tip number 6. Tip number 6 is my favorite. I'm actually quite proud of myself for thinking about that. I'm sure some of you have thought about that as well. It is to, number 1, avoid the public holidays. Number 2, avoid weekends. And number 3, travel only during office hours. So that means that you're going to avoid the office crowd, the school crowd, and essentially minimal domestic travelers, and you're just going to be like more international travelers, which is by far the most important tip when it comes to traveling in China from my experience, because domestic traveling is as much as international travel. So that's my tip number 6. Travel only during office hours, non-public holidays and non-weekends, and only during office hours. Yes, and that's 9:30 to about 5-ish, we should be done. And if you want to go for dinner, say you go to Shanghai, from my experience, the malls are actually quite quiet during weekdays, because weekends is when the malls are busier. But weekday evenings, restaurants in the malls, shopping centers are actually pretty empty, so you can just chill out quite relaxingly. Tip number 7, be really flexible. When I was in Shanghai, after many days of not seeing crowd, I got too optimistic. We decided to go to one of the crowded areas in Shanghai called Yuyuan, and it was super crowded. I was pushing one wheelchair. I can see the crowd swimming towards me with pram, wheelchair, and it was just quite scary. And I just make a quick decision to just find an empty restaurant, have lunch, and then just leave. Yeah, just be very flexible. It's okay to miss a place, but you want to be safe. If I don't feel confident about the place, especially when I have 2 elderlies to look after and there's only myself, I want to be extra careful. So it's okay to miss an attraction or 2, even if you have made the effort to go there. Just be very flexible and tell yourself that it's okay, I make the effort to come here, I know that's not suitable, let's move on if the place is not vibing. So yeah, that's tip number 7. Be flexible and leave when you have to. So following tip number 7 is tip number 8. So we went to Yuyuan in Shanghai, and my mom's really wanted to see how it looks like when the place lights up, because that was how I sell her the place. And we couldn't go. It was too crowded to wait for the light up. When we went, it was like 5+6 and it was already very crowded. So my tip number 8 is, if you are choosing to see lights and stuff that you can drive by, hire a private car and to have the driver go through the place 1 round, 2 rounds, so that you can enjoy the night scene of the place rather than really going to walk around the place. Because mobility challenges is made extra challenging in the nighttime when you can't see very well, and curbs and all that, and little potholes, you just can't really see them very well. It's okay if they're fully on wheelchair, but if they're on walking sticks, you don't really want them to miss the footing and stuff. So for night scenes, lights, maybe hire a car and drive past rather than to have a walk in the place. Tip number 9. Tip number 9 is to hire a private car when you go for your day trips. That actually gives you a lot more sanity, because for the elderly, logistically, you have to arrange a few things, and some attractions are so big. There are a few entrances. Some entrances are not so accessible. So having a private car means that you can call the driver anytime to come and pick you up, and you can leave things in the car when you don't need to use them. So you don't need to carry all the bags throughout the whole day. So my tip number 9 is definitely to hire a private car when you're doing a day trip. It makes everything so much easier.
Tip number 10. Tip number 10 is to reach the airport extra early. So usually we reach the airport 1.5 to 2 hours before departure time. When I travel with my parents, I always try to be there 2.5 to 3 hours earlier. That means they do not have to stand in a queue for long, because when we go there, one of the wheelchair would have already been packed ready for checked-in, and there's only a walking stick available, so I don't want them to queue for too long. And that is really helpful. It makes the whole process really easy. And from my travel, I realized that when you go there 3 hours earlier, you're literally just the first or second one checking in. And then you can enjoy the airport, have coffee, have a tea. And when you come back, the wheelchair is ready, waiting for you to board. The process is so smooth and so easy. I hope these 10 tips really help you in traveling with elderly with mobility issues, and the elderly in your life will continue to enjoy the explorer spirit even at this old, ripe age. Enjoy every day with them. They are so precious.
Hello. Before I drive off, I just want to give you tip number 11. Tip number 11 is quite a blessing. I found this wheelchair that has a pull-along handle. It's very compact. It has smaller wheels, but it's actually better when I travel because you don't have to worry about the vehicle that you book. The flexibility when you lose your way, when you change your plans, you can just easily book a car because the wheelchair is very compact and it's just like one piece of luggage. So yes, tip number 11, if you can get a more portable wheelchair, it will really help in your travel. When I travel alone with them, I have one wheelchair and I have both their luggages to handle. So I do tell my parents to pack very light so that they can share one luggage, and then I just have one really small luggage as well. The next time I travel with them, I'm actually considering whether to just do a backpack because that will help me a lot more as well. I attach the luggage on the wheelchair and then push my mom with her hand, just hugging like this when we move along, so we can be very self-sufficient in maneuvering around in the airport. So that's bonus tip number 11. Have a lovely day. I will sign myself out and drive home. Bye.